Hello, my name is Dr. Jeffrey Gunzel, and I'm going to give you a quick overview of DIR and DIR floor time. I'm going to start with making a distinction between the two. Many people use the terms interchangeably, but there actually is a distinction to be made. So starting with DIR, DIR is the theoretical framework originally developed by Dr. Stanley Greenspan, and it's a robust understanding of how humans develop. And it's a multidimensional. It's not just one domain, it's not just behavior, not just physical, not just cognitive. It's all the domains of a human's life and how we grow and develop as humans. And so breaking this down into what each part is, the D, the I, and the R, the D are these developmental capacities, understanding how development happens. What are the development expectations that we have as humans, and what are we going to go through developmentally? The I, the individual differences, are the unique ways that each one of us are wired, our biology, our environment, our family, our culture, all the things that make us who we are, the unique ways that we perceive, understand, take in the world. And then it's understanding how that interconnects with the developmental capacities. So we have the D that is kind of typical for all humans, but then each one of us have our own neurodiverse developmental process because of our individual differences. And it's understanding the interaction between those two. And then the R is understanding that humans develop in the context of relationships with other humans. A baby is born dependent upon another relationship for survival. It is part of the human condition. And it's understanding how relationships really fuel that developmental process. So I'll take an analogy to explain the three, the D, the I, and the R. Thinking about the developmental roadmap and how we all develop. The D is like the GPS. It tells us where we're at and where we're going. When you plug in your GPS, your destination, the GPS will show on the screen where you're at and the route to get to where you're going. And the D gives us that information. The developmental capacities gives us that information about the developmental roadmap. The I is the part of the app that tells us about the road conditions along the way. Maybe the road's wide open and we can go a little faster than usual and make up some time. Or maybe there's a detour and we have to go a different route and it's going to take longer. It's going to have a lot more turns and a lot more uncertainty on where the next turn is. But we still know we're going to the same place, right? We still know we're moving that developmental process forward. It's just we have to take a different route to get there, and it may take a little longer. Or maybe there's weather conditions that are slow down our travel or shift the way that we drive our car. And the app, the I part of the app will give us all the information about that. And then the R, the relationship part, is like the car. It is what is actually moving the developmental process forward. And if I take it one step further, the fuel in the tank or the power in the battery cell, that's the affective emotional connection between humans. And affect and this emotional process is so central to our development as humans. So that's the D, the I, and the R, and this DIR framework. When we understand how that developmental process happens, DIR floor time, also known as floor time, is the process to promote that development. It's specific strategies and techniques to move that developmental process forward. When children have developmental challenges, it's often considered an intervention, but I don't really think of it so much as an intervention. It's much more about mobilizing development rather than necessarily intervening on development. DIR is interesting because on some level it is beautifully simple. It's about human connection and human relationships, but at the same time, it's brilliantly complex. There's so much going on in those relationships and in that developmental process. So on one hand, you could see a floor time practitioner with the child, and they're playing together, and you can look at it and say, well, they're just playing. What are they doing? But when you understand the science behind the relationship and the science behind what's happening in that interaction, and when the therapist and or parent is promoting that developmental process through these joyful interactions, you really get to the complexity of it all and all the different ways that those interactions are impacting development, again, in multiple life domains, not just one. We're not just changing behavior. We're not just helping with cognition. We're not just helping with motor development or sensory. It's all of it and how we're interacting with all of it at the same time, which is where it becomes really complex, even though so many of the interactions are beautifully simple, of just joyful, fun, respectful, oftentimes playful interactions between two humans. So, what some key ideas? I've already said it's a developmental approach. It's about understanding development. I make that distinction from what maybe a lot of approaches are more pathology focused or maybe more focused on behavior or cognition. This is about development, about how humans develop and promoting that developmental process. We're focused on building these core capacities of development. So your capacity for regulation, your capacity for engaging with others, for communicating with others, for thinking, for reasoning, whatever it may be, it's about developing these core capacities. So thinking about thinking and reasoning, if we develop the core capacity for thinking and reasoning in a deep way, then learning information, learning skills, knowledge becomes much easier because the core capacity is there. Floor time is less about teaching those skills and more developing the capacity to be able to learn those skills. It's a relationship-based approach focused on the science of relationships and how relationships support development. It addresses challenges for sure, but it does it in a way about by mobilizing development and focuses much more on the strengths. It's not that we don't understand that all of us as humans, we have things that are challenging for us, right? We have deficits, but we can address those in a way that's building upon the strengths of the person that's in front of us. It's like building a house. You start with the foundation, you build up from there. And it is a client-centered approach. You know, working with children, people will often say in floor time, we follow the child's lead, which is absolutely correct. But it's not that we do whatever the child wants. People struggle with this idea of following the child's lead sometimes when they don't understand it. It's about understanding where the strengths of that child are, where their interests are, where their skills are, and working to expand and elaborate upon those so that they can grow and develop, so they can do more tomorrow than they're doing today. So it's about mobilizing that developmental process by starting with where they are at. Floor time is widely applicable. You'll see the bulk of the research is focused on younger children on the autism spectrum, but it's not just for small children with autism or small autistic children. It's used with a wide range. We see research now on children with other diagnoses such as cerebral palsy or Down syndrome or other things. And we're starting to see more use of floor time in a wider age range. It's used with used to address lots of different challenges and developmental differences, but definitely things that are more neurodevelopmental in nature is probably where it's most suited for. And then that brings me to what is autism? You know, a quick note on autism here. By definition, autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder. I think I prefer difference than disorder, but it's neurodevelopmental in nature. It's not defined as a behavioral disorder. And this is not my opinion. This is in the diagnostic manual. It is defined as a neurodevelopmental disorder. And that's an important distinction because if it's a behavioral disorder, let's work on changing behaviors. But if it's a neurodevelopmental disorder, let's work on understanding that neurology and move development forward. And that's where floor time is such a good fit in supporting the development of autistic children, is because we're all about supporting development. It is an evidence-based approach without any question. There's case studies, group design studies, randomized control trial studies, systematic reviews. There is lots of research to support floor time and the application of floor time. And the research continues to grow and comes from all over the world. You can learn more at our website at icdl.com/research. And so that's your quick overview of what DIR and DIR floor time are. You can learn more on our website at icdl.com. And there's links here for our, if you're interested in taking the DIR 101 course to get an introduction to what DIR is in a more in-depth way, or other courses, including our professional certificate courses, you can go to our website or contact our training department at training@icdl.com. Thank you very much.